A colleague, Tom Cody, and I have been working on reevaluating the theory curriculum for the past 5 years. Last year, we started the new sequence. Let's see. There we go. So we really needed a change. There was no substantial change for the last 30 years, probably more. I've been here almost 30 years. I imagine it has been same for maybe 50 years. It's based on a European conservatory model that's was in place since the 19th century, so it has 19th century roots. It's based on a canon of Austro-German composers, Bach, Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, Schumann, Brahms. It's based on the idea of a canon of musical masterworks, and it's based on the concept of the autonomous artwork in which musical meaning resides in the inner organization. It was clearly time for a change to bring this curriculum out of the 18th, 19th century into the 21st century. There are two things that really focused my attention and ideas about how to change things to experiences. One was I was program chair of the National Society of Music Theory Conference in 2019, and one of our keynote speakers, Philip Uhl, really rocked our society with a scathing review of our society's racist foundations. And using Joe Fagan's concept of white racial frame, he argued that our organization, our society operates from the assumption, several assumptions, that the music and music theories of white persons represents the framework for music theory. Among these white persons, the music and music theories of whites from German-speaking lands represents the pinnacle of music theoretical thought, and institutions and structures of music theory have nothing to do with race or whiteness, and that to critically examine race and whiteness in music theory would be unfair and inappropriate. This was our awakening as a society. It comes rather late compared to other organizations, but it really rocked it, especially the younger generations in the society. And there's been so many repercussions. The New York Times did an article on it. The New Yorker. It's been picked up by a lot of different sources. Just to give you an example, here are the most common textbooks used in music theory courses. And you can see the percentage of the market share, number of musical examples, and number of examples by non-whites compared to the number of examples. And then the percentages over here. So overall, 1.67 of the examples out of 2,930 examples are by non-whites. If you add women composers, it would not increase that much. So not only is it racial, it's sexist as well, our society. The other thing that happened was as part of the sustainability teaching fellow, along with Peter Buck, we offered a course last fall, and the title of that was The Sound of the Anthropocene, Music, Humans, and Nature on a Changing Planet. And boy, I was lucky to get Peter co-teaching with me because he is so knowledgeable on these things. And he's also had as a master's in music composition, so he's got this musical background too. So together we worked out this course, and it was just an amazing experience. And it grounded me in the issues of sustainability and gave me ideas about how I could then bring them into our curriculum. So some guiding beliefs informing us, creative engagements of students with course content, affirmation of musical knowledge and life experience of students, commitment to the mental and physical well-being of students. And I'll just do an aside from here. The School of Music, first, second year students, we're going through a mental health crisis. There was a survey done by students last week, and 90% of them are going through depression, anxiety. 38%, there were 21 responders, 38% are experiencing thoughts of suicide. So we are dealing with this now and figuring out how we can work through this, how we can help students in the immediate, and what we can do to change things in the long term. So I'd be curious in responses and emails to me personally, if you've experienced this too with your first and second year students. But the other thing, recognizing inherent racist, sexist foundation, elevating African-American composers, elevating women composers, and elevating vernacular music. We went from a 5-semester sequence into a 4-semester sequence. And 231 was the biggest change, which I'm going to talk about. 231 is form and analysis. And in the conservatory model, this is how you would break it down as a taxonomy of formal types: fugue, binary form, ternary, rondo, sonatiform, German lieder. This gets in the idea of autonomous musical artworks. We're just studying these apart from any connections to society, history, or culture. And doing it this way limits the repertoire to the great white European male composers. So a way around this was that, okay, so fugue and sonatiform are very complicated, sophisticated formal types. We needed some sort of focused background on that. But once we got out of that, we created these musical topics in which to bring in repertoire: music language of death, music that lifts the soul, nature, and love. And this helped connect music to the world we live in and connect music to musical meanings outside of music itself. Creative projects, no exams. So just go through some of these musical language of death. So we tend to start out with the European composers, Mozart, Beethoven, and Chopin. This is where the musical language and topics got started. Then I collect things, and there's an online auction. I saw this funeral march of Abraham Lincoln, and I bid on it. I didn't win, but then I started Googling, and I found out that there are like 20 funeral marches for Abraham Lincoln. And what happened, there was a long funeral train of about 1,700 miles that stopped in each city along the way, including Harrisburg. And the municipal bands would then play funeral marches composed by somebody local. So it created this corpus opportunity for a corpus study, but then also Frederick Douglass, looking at his funeral march. So getting in the historical background of the assassination of Lincoln, what he did, who was Frederick Douglass, as part of bringing these pieces into cultural and history. Death scenes in cinema, New Orleans, and then it was getting a little heavy, a little too much death. So we had the students compose a spooky Halloween composition based on the musical language. Music that lifts the soul. So we started with the topic in classical of the sacred chorale used in instrumental music. Then we looked at sacred chorale, early cinema, Don Juan, 1927, the first sound film that synchronized music and image. And then topic of sacred chorale, contemporary worship music, and this was Christine DeMarco, and African-American spirituals. What I want to do next year is fan out and then bring sacred music of some other culture. And I made connections with the, the Society of Indian Music and Arts. It's in the community, but they have university connections, and they're going to come in next year and talk about how their music relates to their religion and to their worldview. And then music in nature. So having kids go out, and this is part of wellness, go out weekly to a place in nature. And the Arboretum is this one down here. These two are from the duck pond, little friends I made along the way. If you tap your fingers on the water, they come over to you. And so I was able to get these pictures. And then for them to go out and just reflect, observe, record their thoughts. And then this semester, we focused on water as part of nature and water and climate change. And then they're composing composition on the theme of water. And then the last part is unit, which we'll get to after Thanksgiving break, is musical language of love. So we started with death as a musical topic. took them down, and at the end of the semester brought them back up. So romantic songs in pop music, Brazilian love songs in cinema, and then there'll be composing of love songs. So the goal was to get away from the canon of great composers, white European composers, canon of musical artworks, and just open it up to connect this curriculum, connect the material to the world around them. So this is one course in the whole sequence. And each of the courses, we're trying to do something like this within the constraints of the course objectives. So this was a lot of fun to teach. First time around, there's lots of things I want to change. So we're getting lots of course comments back from the students. Thank you. That's all I have.